Hello, my name is Chase Thomas, and in this video I'm going to explain briefly why I am a fascist. And yes, I am a fascist. Hopefully you are seeing this off of an Instagram reel that I recently posted, where I explain how I have identified myself as a fascist, and I've been getting a lot of mean comments from people about that, which is fine. But yeah, I wanted to go ahead and explain in common sense terms why I am a fascist and why I have embraced fascism. I'm going to talk a little bit about communism as well, and I'm not going to get into every little itty-bitty nuance about the two ideologies because there's a lot that goes into it. So I'm going to start off by just explaining a couple of core principles about fascism that I agree with and why I think it is necessary for society. Now, when you hear the word fascism, I would make a bet that the first thing that comes to your mind is Adolf Hitler and the Nazi regime, because that's what everybody goes to. That's the first example of fascism that everybody thinks of, and because of that, everybody instantly applies being a fascist with being a horrible, murdering racist, right? Which is not always the case. Yes, it is true that historically fascist regimes have a racist element to it, but I believe that a fascist regime can exist without a racist element, because I personally am not a racist. I detest racism. I'm a Catholic. It goes against my religion. I believe that all people, regardless of their skin color, are created in God's image, and I believe that everyone from any country has just as much of a right to exist as I do. So yeah, that's first and foremost. Please do not think that every fascist is a racist who worships Adolf Hitler, right? So I want to touch on two core principles about fascism that I actually do agree with, and what I find to be completely common sense across basically every society in human history. And the first of those principles is this: having a rigid class structure, or in other words, a hierarchy of people in society. People at the top, people anywhere else in the middle, and then the people at the bottom, or the working class. That's just how society works. That is how every single society has ever operated. Every society has had some form of hierarchy where there are different classes for different types of people. And that is what fascism embraces and is basically that's basically the foundation of fascism, is having a class structure. Now, communists, on the other hand, they try to oppose that. Communists will come along and say, hey, everybody, vote for us, and we are going to get rid of class structure, we're going to get rid of hierarchies, we're going to eliminate the rich, and we're all going to be the same, we're all going to be equal, and we are going to hold hands in a wonderful, happy fairy tale, and we're going to live happily ever after, right? Nonsense, nonsense, nonsense. That has never happened. That has never worked. That is why communism does not work. It's because communism starts off, in a society that has a class structure, and then the bitter working class, gets mad at the rich, and then they try to overthrow the rich, and oftentimes they do, and then they're like, hey, everybody, we did it, we overthrew the rich, now what do we do? And they're like, oh, well, we got to establish a hierarchy where we have certain people at the top and certain people at the bottom. So then they just end up becoming exactly what they just overthrew. This is the reason why communism does not work. And this is the reason why I embrace fascism. Because fascists will come along and say, hey, everybody, we need to have a rigid class structure. Some people are born to be the leaders. Some people are born to be at the top. Some people are born to be in the middle class. And some people are born to do the work. That's just how society operates. But people today don't seem to want to embrace that because they think everyone should just be the same. Everyone should just be in the same class. And that's never going to happen. In society, you need to have certain people running things, and you need to have certain people in the other classes, in the middle class, and the people in the working class who are doing the work. I am happily a working class guy. I'm a working man. I go to work 9 to 5, and that's my life. If that's where God wants me to be in the social class system, then so be it. But I know that there are also a class of people who have money and are born to be the leaders of society. That is never going to change, ever. Never, ever, ever will there be a classless society. So if you actually subscribe to that and consider yourself more of a communist, please wake up and come over to the side of truth, because that is simply not going to happen. It's just nonsense. So that's enough of my LARPing on that. But the second principle of fascism that I really embrace is nationalism and militarism. Having a safe nation, protecting the interests of your nation, and having a strong military to keep the people safe. That is a major principle of fascism. And, why wouldn't you want to have that? Why would you want to live in a nation that has no unified culture, a nation that has open borders, no safety, weak military, weak defense system? Why would you want that? You don't want that. You want to live in a safe society, and you want to live in a society where people are generally unified in what they believe in and the culture that they practice. That is a major component of fascism. And that's basically it. If that doesn't sound appealing to you, I'm sorry, there might just be something wrong with you. So let me recap. Fascism says, hey, we need to have a class structure. There are certain people who are born to be in certain roles in society, and we need a safe nation. We need a strong military, we need strong national defense, and we need to embrace our culture. In the United States of America, today, in 2026, people on the left are absolutely trying to destroy all of these things. Why? Because they are moving further towards communism. They are moving towards this ideology that, we'll all just, we need to overthrow the rich, eat the rich. That's something you hear a lot, people saying eat the rich. Well, it's because they're just bitter that they're not rich, and their only way to become rich is be like, oh, they're oppressive, they're mean, they're abusing their wealth and their power. It's like, no, they're not. They're just doing what they were born to do. They're the top of the social pyramid, And if you want to be at the top of the social pyramid, then do what you need to do, work hard, and get there. Don't just complain and take to the streets and try to overthrow the government. So please don't listen to any of this communist bullshit. These are people that are just trying to start a revolution, so that they can overthrow the regime and then become the new regime. But that's another reason why communism doesn't work, is because, they like I said, they try to overthrow the social class system and make everyone equal. And then when they overthrow the powers that be, they don't know what to do next. And then they're like, well, damn, I guess we have to reinstitute exactly what we just threw over. Why? Because that's how society works. The only difference between communism and fascism is that fascists are honest about what they are trying to achieve. And I would rather live under honest fascists than dishonest fascists. Communists are simply fascists that pretend to be communists. Look at the big two communist nations, Russia and China. Ask yourself, do you think either of those nations are living in a perfectly utopian, classless society? No. They are living in a society kind of just like ours, right? There's a group of rich people, there's the middle class, maybe some other classes in between, and then there's the working class. And whoever's at the top, say Xi Jinping of China or Vladimir Putin of Russia, they are ruling with an iron fist, because that's the way society works. It's called fascism. Fascism is basically just a formula for the way every society in history has operated. And by the way, do you think Xi Jinping of China and Putin of Russia have open borders and a weak military? No, I don't think so. Their shit is rock solid and pretty badass. They have strong national borders, they have unified culture, and they have a really strong military. Here in the United States, We simply do not have that. And that is why we need to start embracing fascism and start embracing, like, hey, we need to get our shit together. We need to come together in culture, embrace the same ideologies, and everyone else just needs to step aside. If you're not going to get on board, then there's no room for you. That's simply how it works. And everyone who's on the left, who are communists, sorry, not sorry, but that's just the way life works. Thank you for watching. I hope you found this helpful, and I hope you may have found some common sense truth in fascism. Now, I know there's a lot more that goes into it, and if you do see this video, I want to hear your thoughts, because I've given a lot of thought into many different things and many different nuances about fascism. So if you think I'm crazy, tell me I'm crazy. If you disagree with something I said in this video, I want to hear it. Thank you very much for watching. Have a great day.